Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by a man who is on 7 green arrows in a row in Fantasy Premier League. Bakar, another green arrow for you in Gameweek 16. Today we're going to be previewing Gameweek 17, but you know, you're on a generational run here, Bakar, and I was just saying to you off camera, if you continue this form, you may well win FPL this season. You've come close before, but this could be your year.
Hi, Jack. Hello, and welcome to all the listening viewers. Yeah, I mean, things are going my way, really. I was sort of resigned to a red arrow come Sunday night when Porro was benched, when Palmer was blanking. But then Porro came off the bench, got that very crucial clean sheet, and a late blitz from Mbermo, where he got a 9-pointer, has just salvaged my week. And I've managed myself a very marginal green arrow, but I'll take them. I've been on a bit of a run now in weeks, and I think it's come at a very critical time in the season where game weeks are coming thick and fast. And if I'm sort of stringing together a run of greens, then it means that I can sort of consolidate my rank and end up closer to where I want to end.
Yeah, exactly. It's a 35k green arrow this week. Doesn't sound crazy, but when you couple it with the fact and compound it by the fact that you've sort of been doing this for a good number of weeks now. Actually, if you look at your rank from 9 or so game weeks ago, you're at 3 million, and now you're at what 200k. If you can do that again, wow, you'll be on for an unbelievable finish. But yeah, you definitely set yourself up for a good second half of the season. And yeah, you know what? Maybe you ran a little bit good this week. Porro coming off the bench for Udogi who got injured. I don't think
Great
Mbermo's lucky because we know he can do this. You know, and he's done very well the last couple of game weeks when people like you decided to keep him. And yeah, you know, he's fortunate to score, I suppose, and then in any game you need a little bit of luck, game state, etc. But he's on the pitch when Brentford are still in the game and have a chance of getting something from it. And yeah, he scores a late goal, but he's there to score the goal.
He's a solid pick. I mean, irrespective. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything has gone my way. I sold
No, of
Bruno
course not.
for Saka. I sold Bruno for Saka 3 weeks ago. That's been pretty
Oh,
rough. It looked a very obvious transfer after, Bruno, he had Arsenal and City in two of the next three. Even Forest are a stingy defense, so you wouldn't exactly expect Bruno to haul there. He got 9 points over there as well. And Saka in three back-to-back fixtures, three very easy fixtures, when you come to think of it, has actually blanked in all three of them. United home, for Fulham away, Everton home. He's just got 3, 2, and 3 points respectively. So that swing has cost me close to 12 points, if I'm not mistaken.
okay.
Uh, and yeah, that's been rough. But again, I don't exactly have any regrets about the transfer because it just made too much sense at that time.
Yeah, I did tell you at the time to not do it though. So you probably should have listened to me. I said keep, as
Of
I've
course
said
you
all
did.
season, I said keep Bruno, man. You've got to keep him now, but he didn't listen to me. And what can I say? It didn't go your way. Okay, let's have a look at your team for the upcoming week. And immediately, I just want to talk about your defense and who you are planning on playing out of your defenders.
Uh, I've already made a transfer. I want to
Oh,
share a disclaimer that I've made
okay.
a early transfer, which is something which I don't usually do. But this week, looking
Can I?
at
Oh,
some
can
of
I try
my
and can I
future
try and
plan,
guess? Can I try and guess? Sorry to interrupt. Can I try and
of
guess what you've
course,
done? So you've got zero
we'll
point
be
0.1
honest.
million in the bank. This is tough. I don't think you would have made a. Oh, okay. So Solanke has Liverpool at home,
I
and
made one on Saturday night, just by the way, even before the
okay,
Sunday fixtures.
okay. I'm thinking. I mean, the obvious player would be Solanke, but then you don't have to sell him. Maybe a defender would be. Oh, okay. Maybe you've gone for Robinson. Actually, no, I don't know why you do that early. I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Can you tell me if it's a defender? You know what? You know what? I will guess that you've done. I don't know why you do. I don't know why you do it that early though. Oh, this is tough. There's no forward that you'd need to move early on. I don't. Who would it be? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, the reason being that because of the price movements, I would have been priced out of the future transfers I
Ah,
wanted to
okay,
make in game week 18 and 19. So any point one swing here or there would have realistically priced me out. So I had to
okay.
make that transfer. I made a
Oh,
defensive
I know what it
transfer. I
was.
actually
I know what
sold
it
Pop.
was. I know what it was. Yeah, it's to enable
Go on.
Isak down the line. Is that what it? Is that what you're thinking? Or Jackson? For
No,
Solanke? Oh, right. Okay.
actually not.
I'll stop
Actually,
talking.
actually, not, actually not, actually not, because I'm not looking at Isak as a transfer in not in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Right. Okay.
I think he's a fantastic option for those who have him. But I've been saying for weeks that I want Trent, and I have had no route to him, no funds for him. And this was
Oh.
sort of the week where I was planning to get Trent in 18, but I had to sort of free up the funds. I actually had three free transfers. I've used one of them. And next week, I'll probably do a triple move to fund Trent in. And the transfer I made this week is Porro to Colwell because Colwell has a
Oh.
really good run of fixtures coming up. He was going up on in price on Saturday night, and there was no world that I wanted to keep Porro. And this was before the benching, by the way. I mean, I just don't trust Spurs defensively at all, and he's been a big disappointment this season. And the fixtures to come aren't exactly great from a defensive point of view as well. So I wanted a defender who I can play in most of the weeks. And especially after having looked at how Brighton have defended, I think that transfer is kind of justified in my head because I don't really want to play Dunk either in any of the coming weeks because they're not exactly great defensively. Chelsea, meanwhile, have looked all right. They've been unlucky to lose two clean sheets very late on in recent weeks. And I
Yeah.
think Colwell should offer a great value for money at his price. And when you look at the fixtures, they're good all the way up till game week 24, barring the odd one fixture in game week 23 against City. They're pretty good. So yeah, I've made that transfer. That allows me to then make the transfers I want in game week 18, which will involve doing Saliba to Trent. I know Saliba's up switch at home next week, but I think he's the only guy I can realistically sell to enable Trent in my team. Given that I have Saka, Palmer, Trent, I don't have the funds. So yeah, I'll do Saliba to Trent. I might do Mbomo to Eze, and
Okay.
I will definitely be doing Flecken to Allison as well because Flecken is another problem in my team that needs addressing. Allison's double game week pretty much nails him in my
Yeah,
team.
that is an exact move that I've got penciled in for next game week as well. So yeah, you'd have, I suppose, zero point 0.8 million in the bank roughly because of the fact that you already made that. You'd need to find zero point 0.8 million from somewhere to do that Allison move. I think roughly. If I mean this price you can see on screen is after the price changes. So you bought Colwell at 4.5. So yeah, I suppose an Mbomo down to an Eze would be the way to do it. Very good. Makes a lot of
Exactly.
sense, and it's very easy to see on this lovely fantasy football hub graphic what Bakar's plan is. Looks great. Looks great to me. Okay, let's talk about something that I think is very important this week, which is captaincy. Is there any sort of debate this week in terms of captain, or what do you think about the midfielders at the moment? Was it just a slight off week for the premium midfielders? Is there any concern about Saka? Arsenal haven't looked that fluent going forward. I don't think many of us are considering captaining Saka in a week like this. Is that a concern?
Not really. I mean, there will be players who will go through bad runs and then they'll come to life eventually. We've seen it time and again this season with Bruno. I mean, you look at his performances of the first 10 weeks, and he suddenly comes to life and he proves to everyone that he's been a very good asset to own. Similarly with Mbomo, everyone was selling him. I think he blanked in 4 to 5 consecutive game weeks. Then he came to life. It performed really well. And I'm thinking similar with Saka because we know what he can do. The fixtures are still good for Arsenal. I'm in no rush to panic selling him or consider selling him or anything of that sort. I think he's still a good asset to own. Yes, recent returns have been disappointing, but you'd still expect him to step up to the plate sooner rather than later.
Okay, so captaincy. According to Fantasy Football Hub, the predicted points between the top captains this week are all extremely close, and they're actually very low, which suggests that the ceiling for any individual player this game week is pretty limited, which we normally don't expect from our premium players. Does that suggest that actually there is a chance there is opportunity to go a little bit rogue with the captaincy this week, or should we still stick to the premium players?
I think there's scope to go different for sure, like there was last week with Isak, where a lot of people sort of captained him and he did really well. I don't think there's a clear-cut captaincy choice actually between Palmer, Salah this week. I think you can even go different if you wish to. Uh, I mean, some rogue picks being, for example, I mean, Bruno against Bournemouth isn't a terrible shout.
Yeah.
I don't think Isak maybe could be decent, but I still think that Palmer and Salah are pretty clear of the rest. So that's who I would suggest. And I'm sort of torn picking between them myself, actually. I think I'm leaning towards Salah because off the fixture because of the injuries in the Spurs defense. And Everton, we've seen that they can do a job against the big teams very recently, like the way they shut up Arsenal. I'm still
Yeah.
expecting Palmer to get some returns, but I'm sort of struggling to see it as a fixture where he falls big, even though he easily can. I just think Salah's ceiling seems greater because that game is likely to be more high scoring. I might be wrong. What do you reckon?
No, I completely agree. I think it's yeah. Again, maybe it's my Chelsea bias, which means I'm slightly negative on Chelsea, as in it's like sort of a reverse bias. I think from being a fan, I'm maybe slightly more pessimistic about our players in general. It's one of the reasons why I haven't got a defender or any defensive coverage. I'm just like, I always expect us to concede, when that probably isn't the case. Same with Palmer. And what you just said there, I completely agree with. I can see a game in which we're very sort of frustrated by Everton. I'd like to think we'd win that game, but Arsenal didn't manage to do it, so it's not a guarantee. And I think the one thing with Tottenham is that they will give up chances, and they're not going to sit back and just low block against Liverpool. So I would expect that to be a higher scoring game in general. So yeah, for me, I'm going to be on Salah. I would say unless something happens 100%, I'll be on Salah. But yeah, looking at the predicted points, I mean they're both predicted to score the exact same number of points. So I don't think it's as easy as I'm making out there. But yeah, let us know in the
Yeah, I
comments
don't think it's going to
what are you
be a swing
thinking.
either way.
No, exactly. Well, I mean, who knows? It might be, but yeah, I think it is going to be. I think this is one of those weeks where I wouldn't expect any player to get 15 plus out of the captaincy options. I do think it will be a little bit lower scoring. Yeah.
Yeah, market odds and underlying data does favor Salah as well.
Okay.
Especially when you look at the defensive data for both respective teams, Everton and Spurs, uh, and the market probability for goals and assists, they favor Salah as well. So I'm currently leaning towards that. My starting 11 will be fairly straightforward. I can bench Rogers, Dunk, and Mikalenko, and I can play the rest of my team. I think this is a week where I don't exactly have to make too many decisions now that I made my transfer on Saturday night. I'm just hoping there are no injuries in midweek, which
Yeah.
might screw me over for moving early. But I'm just glad I sort of got out of the weekend with no further damage because I was sort of fearing, any injury to a Chelsea player or a Spurs player.
That's unlike you. It's unlike you to go so early. I respect it, but it's definitely risky, especially when there are a lot of games to be played.
I only did it because the transfers I want to make down the line, they were so tempting that I was absolutely certain that I want to make them. Because when you look at Palace's fixture run from Game Week 18, it's ridiculous, honestly. And then I have to set myself up for the Liverpool double as well with Allison and Trent. And they have Leicester at home in Game Week 18. So it sort of made sense. I sort of knew what I was getting into. It was a calculated risk, if I may call it. And I've sort of gotten away with it. I'm just glad I have somehow so far.
Okay, let's round this video off by talking about forwards. Where are you currently at in terms of your general perception of, firstly, your forward line, and then forwards in general, and we'll come to Cunha in that debate and what potentially is going to happen to him and what you would do with him if you owned him.
I think I'm all right with my forwards. João Pedro was sort of disappointed in recent weeks. He hasn't really delivered, but at what 5.5, 5.6 million, I bought him at that price. I still think he's going to offer good value with the fixtures that Brighton have to come. Some people are getting cold feet on Solanke and they've been sort of fed up of his returns because he hasn't really delivered as big as people want. He's been consistent. I think he's scored consistently. He's only blanked, I think, in one of his previous 4 or 5 starts, which is still all right. But if you're paying 7.5 million, I guess people are comparing it to Isak, who's just,
Yeah.
smashed Leicester this week. So it does feel a bit underwhelming, and I get the point. But I mean, I've said this for weeks. I don't have any plans of moving Solanke on from my team, at least not in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The fixes are still all right. This week is a bit difficult, but then when you look at it, they have Forest and Wolves at home in the next 2 weeks. So yeah, I think Solanke is worth holding on. I get the argument for selling him because he hasn't been hauling, but scoring consistently is an art as well. And I don't mind the 5 or 6 pointers occasionally, as I think they sort of tend to be underrated. If he had gotten, let's say, a 9 pointer and then blanked this week, it would still be 11 points, right? So
Yeah.
6 and 5 doesn't exactly feel that great, but he's been doing a job, and yeah, he's going to play every minute, most minutes, I guess, and in the congested period. And I really, really value that, especially when I have higher priority transfers to make. So in my position, I can choose to prioritize Isak over Trent, but I want to go for Trent because of the double and because of the fixtures. And I think Solanke can do a good job uh, while keeping him as well. And the third one is actually really interesting, and he's someone I want to talk about, Raul Jimenez. He seemed like a problem a few weeks ago when Muniz started the fixture against Brighton, and then he scored as well. But I think he's still first choice. And while I expect him to get the odd rest in the congested period, at 5.6, 5.7 million, he's going to be good value. He is definitely going to be good value because the fixtures are decent, especially for teams with eight attackers, and the significant majority of teams in FPL matches at the moment have eight playable attackers. You can pick and choose when to bench him. And getting someone like a Raul for most teams does allow for Trent as well. So yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people will be very keen to hear about Cunha replacements. I think going down to someone like a Raul Jimenez could be worthwhile, especially given what he allows. And the fixture at home to Southampton this week is appealing, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are concerned about his minutes, but for teams with eight playable attackers, I don't exactly see it as a huge issue for his price.
I mean, he is the cheapest forward that I can on this list here, and that is important. You know, just what it enables you to do. Like when you do go to Trent and then have Eze in your team, that's very strong. Just compared to most people, most managers that I suppose have like a Rodgers as their eighth attacker, but then also as their sort of seventh attacker, they have a midfielder that isn't doing as well now. I'm thinking of the likes of like a Semenyo or maybe even like someone like an Enzo in there as well. Just one final question. In terms of that budget midfielder, what are you thinking now in terms of ranking a Rodgers, a Semenyo, who really hasn't done anything in actually quite a while now, Enzo Fernandez, etc. Do you still think these sort of players are viable as eighth attackers, or should we now be looking to go for someone like an Eze and then have a Jimenez and sort of have that eighth midfielder or that fifth midfielder sort of permanently benched?
I think the likes of Roger Semenyo can still do a decent job. I don't think they're good enough to be a seventh attacker for most teams. I would still consider them as an eighth.
Okay.
But another thing with Raul is that he rotates really well with these two. So because both Rogers and Semenyo are fairly popular, another thing sort of which works in Jimenez's favor is that he can sort of do a filler's role. And while the likes of Enzo, Ahmad even are
Yeah.
decent players to have, I don't exactly think they're worth swapping one for the other, especially at a time where transfers are precious. I just think it's worth holding on to Rogers and Semenyo. And I think I do sort of look at Eze, and I look at him as a much superior asset as compared to Enzo and Ahmad because of the fixtures that Palace have from Game Week 18 and because of the relative security of minutes. His minutes have been building up in recent weeks gradually, and I'd expect him to play more in the times to come. Yes, he may not be on penalties anymore, but he's still the talisman for Palace, so I'd expect him to do well in most of the fixtures that they have coming up.
Okay, there we go. Thank you very much, Bakar, as always. Some good tips and advice. I think we've covered everything. We've not missed anything key this week, have I?
I don't think we missed
I
anything.
hope
I think
not.
we've covered everything.
I hope not. If we have, yeah, well, don't worry. Drop a comment in the comments below, guys. Let me know. And yeah, one of Bakar and I, for your sake, I hope it's Bakar, will get to your question. Thank you, mate. Good luck next game week. Can you make it 8 in a row? That's the question.
No pressure, bro.
No pressure at all.